Life is not a series of random events, but a tapestry woven with threads of unseen purpose. The silence you feel, the weight of waiting, the aching questions in the depths of your soul. These are not signs of absence, but whispers of transformation. Just as the tide recedes before a mighty wave, just as winter stills the earth before the bloom, your life, too, is gathering itself for renewal. There are moments when the familiar begins to unravel, not as an end, but as a sacred invitation to something greater. You stand at the threshold of change, where what was is giving way to what will be. And though you may not see it now, the unseen hand that shaped the stars is at work within you. Pay attention, for life is speaking. The winds shift before the dawn, and the soul stirs before the breakthrough. Something is moving, and soon, so will you. There comes a time in every life when the ground beneath us begins to tremble. Not in a way that destroys, but in a way that unsettles. The things that once felt safe, the rhythms we relied on, the paths we walked without question, suddenly they no longer fit. There's an uneasiness that lingers in the quiet moments, a stirring deep in the soul that whispers, something is changing. And often that change doesn't arrive with fanfare or clarity. It arrives as discomfort. A job that once fulfilled you now feels hollow. Friendships that once carried you now feel distant. The routine you once found comfort in now feels like a cage. It is a strange and sacred tension, this in-between space, a place where you are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. You may wonder why it feels this way, why the very things that once gave you joy now leave you restless. But growth rarely comes wrapped in comfort. A seed does not break through the soil without struggle. A butterfly does not emerge without pressing against the cocoon. The discomfort you feel is not life abandoning you, it is life stretching you. It is the pressing of the potter's hands against the clay, shaping you for something greater. Some of you have been praying for change, and now that it's here, you find yourself resisting it. You asked for new doors to open, but now the hallway between them feels endless. You asked for strength, but life handed you challenges that demand it. This is how transformation works. It does not simply place you in a new life, it prepares you for it. And so when the familiar begins to unravel, do not fear. When restlessness stirs in your heart, do not fight it. It is not a sign that you are lost, it is a sign that you are growing. Every discomfort, every unease, every moment of questioning is a labor pain of what is being birthed within you. If you feel the weight of this season, if you find yourself caught between where you've been and where you're going, let me remind you, this is not the end of your story. It is the prelude to something greater. What feels like breaking is actually becoming. There is a moment before every great shift when the world seems to go quiet. Prayers feel like they echo into nothingness. The signs we used to rely on seem to disappear. The fire that once burned bright within us dims, and all we are left with is silence. It is an unsettling place to be. We are people who crave motion, answers, and direction. We want to see where we are going. And yet, life in its infinite wisdom often prepares us for change by first bringing us into a season of stillness. A season where nothing seems to be happening, yet beneath the surface, everything is shifting. Think of the dawn. Before the sun rises, the world holds its breath. The birds do not yet sing. The wind does not yet stir. It is as if creation itself is waiting, expectant, knowing that light is on its way. And so it is with us. A pause. A space where heaven seems silent and we are left with nothing but faith. Some of you have been in this place for a while now. You have been praying, hoping, knocking, and yet the answer has not come. You look around and nothing seems to be moving. You wonder if God has forgotten you, if the promise whispered to your heart was just a dream. But let me tell you something. Silence is not absence. Delay is not denial. Sometimes the quiet is not a sign that nothing is happening. It is a sign that everything is. Look at the seed buried in the earth. If you were to stand above it, you would see nothing. Days pass, weeks go by, and still there is no sign of growth. But beneath the soil, where no eye can see, roots are taking hold. The foundation is being built. And then one day, when the time is right, life breaks through. Your life is no different. If you are in a season of silence, do not mistake it for stagnation. You are being strengthened in the waiting. There is work being done in you that you cannot yet see. This is the moment when faith is tested, not in the fire of trials, but in the quiet where nothing seems to be happening. But hear me when I say this. The silence will not last forever. The sun will rise. The answer will come. The shift will happen. And when it does, you will realize that the waiting was not wasted. Every moment of stillness was preparing you. Every unanswered prayer was leading you. Every quiet night was drawing you closer to the breakthrough. And when that day comes, you will look back and see what you could not before. That even in the silence, you were never alone. There are moments in life when things begin to slip away. Relationships, jobs, dreams we once held close. At first, we fight to hold on. We try to reason with life, to patch the cracks, to make things stay the way they were. But no matter how tightly we cling, some things still fall from our grasp, and it hurts. The ending of something familiar can feel like a tearing, like a loss too great to bear. We wonder why God would allow something to be taken from us. We question whether we did something wrong. But what if the ending is not a punishment? What if it is a passage? What if the very thing you are mourning was never meant to carry you where you are going next? It is a hard truth to accept. But sometimes the doors that close are just as much an answer to prayer as the ones that open. Sometimes what looks like rejection is actually redirection. What feels like loss is making way for something greater. Think about a tree in autumn. The leaves, once vibrant and full of life, begin to wither and fall. If you didn't know better, you might think the tree was dying, but we know the truth. The tree is not dying. It is preparing. The old leaves must fall to make room for new growth. The branches must endure the barrenness of winter so that in time they can bloom again. And so it is with us. Life will strip away what no longer serves us, not because it wants to leave us empty, but because it is making room. A job that no longer fulfills you may be ending because there is a new calling waiting to be answered. A relationship that has run its course may be fading because there are people ahead who will walk with you into the next season. The familiar must fall away so that the future can take root. But we resist, don't we? We try to breathe life back into things that were never meant to stay. We hold on, not because it is right, but because it is known. And yet when we finally release what was never meant to be ours forever, we find something unexpected, peace. Because deep down, we know when something has reached its time. We may not want to admit it, but we feel it. The quiet knowing that whispers, it is time to let go. And here's the beautiful thing. When you release what is leaving, you create space for what is coming. You may not see it yet. You may still be standing in the empty field, wondering if spring will ever come again. But trust this. What is meant for you will not pass you by. What is ahead is greater than what is behind. And when you finally step into it, you will understand that nothing was truly lost, only transformed. So do not fear the endings. Do not resist the turning of the page. What looks like the closing of a door may in fact be the hand of God gently guiding you toward the next. Something inside you is stirring. You can't quite explain it, but you feel it. a quiet restlessness, a longing that won't leave you alone. You look at your life, at the routines you've settled into, and though they once brought comfort, now they feel too small. It's as if your soul is whispering, there is more. And there is more. There always has been, but for so long you have silenced that voice. You have told yourself to be practical, to be realistic, to be content with what you have. You have buried dreams under responsibility, convinced yourself that the life you once imagined was just a passing thought, not a calling. But callings don't go away. They wait. They wait through the years, through the distractions, through the excuses. They wait in the quiet places of your heart, and when the time is right, they rise again. And when they do, you can feel them, like a seed pressing against the soil, ready to break through. Maybe you have begun to dream again. Maybe you've started to feel a pull towards something new, a passion you long abandoned, a desire that makes no logical sense but won't let you go. Pay attention. This is not just wishful thinking. It is not coincidence. It is life calling you forward. Think about the way a bird knows when it is time to migrate. No one tells it where to go. No one forces it to leave, yet something deep inside it knows. The wind shifts, the air changes, and instinct takes over. And so it is with you. When your time of change is near, something in you will begin to shift. What once satisfied you will no longer be enough. What once seemed impossible will start to feel inevitable. And here is where the choice comes. You can ignore it, you can push it aside, bury it beneath fear, tell yourself it's too late, too risky, too much. Or you can lean in. You can trust that the desires placed within you were not random. You can believe that the dream still alive in your heart is there for a reason. Because what if this longing is not just about you? What if the dream inside you is meant to bless someone else? What if the passion stirring in you is part of a greater plan? Some of you have felt this stirring before, and you walked away from it. You let fear win. You let doubt steal what was meant to be yours. But grace is calling you again. And this time you are ready. So listen to the longing, let it lead you. Because the stirring you feel is not a mistake. It is an awakening. It is the first sign that your life is about to change. There are moments in life when people cross our paths at just the right time. You weren't looking for them, you weren't expecting them, but somehow there they are. With a word, a gesture, a kindness that seems almost heaven-sent. And maybe, just maybe it is. You see, life has a way of sending us exactly what we need, exactly when we need it. A conversation that shifts your perspective, a mentor who speaks into your life when you are on the verge of giving up, a stranger whose words, spoken in passing, answer a question you've been asking in silence. These moments are not accidents. They are not mere coincidences. They are reminders that you are being guided, that you are not walking this path alone. Think about the times you've met someone and felt as if you had known them forever. Or the moments when, out of nowhere, someone shares a piece of wisdom that lands like an answer to a prayer. This is how life works when we are on the edge of change. Just as a river carves its way through rock to find the sea, you are being led, gently, deliberately, to where you are meant to be. But too often we dismiss these encounters. We call them luck. We say, what are the odds? And then move on, unaware that something greater is at work. But when you start to pay attention, when you begin to open your eyes to the way life moves around you, you'll see it. Patterns, connections, moments too perfect to be random. Some of you are in this very place now. A door has closed, and you don't know what's next. You've been searching, praying, waiting for a sign, and then someone walks into your life carrying the very message you needed to hear. Maybe it's a friend who reminds you of your worth. Maybe it's a leader who points you in a new direction. Maybe it's a person who believes in you before you believe in yourself. Do not take these moments lightly. Do not brush past them. The right people, the right voices will show up when your life is ready to shift. They will not come with flashing lights or grand announcements, but they will come. And when they do, you will know. And perhaps one day you will be that person for someone else. Perhaps you will be the voice, the encouragement, the sign someone has been waiting for. Because that is how life works. The same hand that guides you will use you to guide another. So listen closely. Pay attention. The answers you seek may be standing right in front of you. There comes a moment in life when something inside you lets go. The fear that once held you tight begins to loosen its grip. The need to control, to force, to have all the answers, it starts to fade. You stop striving, stop pushing against the current, and instead you begin to trust. And that trust changes everything. You see, for so long, we live under the illusion that we must figure everything out ourselves. That if we don't plan every detail, if we don't hold on tightly to every outcome, life will slip through our fingers. We believe that certainty is safety, that control is security. But there comes a point when we realize we were never really in control to begin with. And when that moment comes, we have a choice. We can keep fighting, keep grasping for something that was never ours to hold, or we can release it. We can lean into something greater than ourselves. We can surrender, not in defeat, but in faith. Some of you are standing at that crossroads now. You've done all you can. You've exhausted your strength, your plans, your ideas, and yet the breakthrough you seek has not come. Maybe that's because it was never meant to come through your effort alone. Maybe the door you've been banging on so desperately hasn't opened because there's another way through, one you can't see until you stop forcing and start trusting. Think about the waves in the ocean. A swimmer who fights against them will tire quickly, but the one who learns to move with the water, who surrenders to its rhythm, finds that the very force that could have drowned them now carries them forward. And so it is with life. The moment you surrender, the moment you stop wrestling with what you cannot control, is the moment you begin to move in the flow of something greater. This is not passivity. This is not giving up. This is stepping into alignment. It is believing that you are being led, even when you cannot see the path. It is knowing that the delays, the closed doors, the unanswered questions are not punishments, but preparation. And when you step into that trust, something shifts. The anxiety that once consumed you begins to fade. The need to prove yourself disappears. You start to breathe again, to walk lighter, to live with open hands instead of clenched fists. Some of you have spent your whole lives trying to control what was never meant to be controlled. But what if, instead of fighting the waves, you allowed yourself to be carried? Because here's the truth. Life is moving, whether you resist it or not. The question is, will you let it carry you where you are meant to go? Will you step into trust? Will you surrender, not because you have given up, but because you have finally realized you were never alone to begin with?